2021 in review on today's Unnamed Real Estate Podcast. And here we are, last episode of the year. My name is Charles Ray Dawson. This is ProStar Realty. I am the associate broker and sales manager of this fine establishment. And I'm the only one in the office today because everybody else decided to take off early. But it gives me time to wrap up the recording and whatnot. A little bit of traffic noise going on. I had to push this back because right when I was ready to go, the lawns grounds crew came through and started going through with their weed blowers and lawn mowers and all that other good stuff. But it seems to have quieted down a bit. So we're going to discuss the year in review. It's been an interesting year, as we'll see. And I'm going to wrap up with the numbers after that. Try to keep this whole thing under 30 minutes or so, but you know how I am. So let's get started on this. First things first. Let's start with the national news that came out. National news, the big stories that I picked for the national real estate news. First one is iBuyers are a thing and Zillow isn't. iBuyers have definitely moved into the market. They are taking a sizable share of real estate sales, both on the buyer side and on the seller side. Some of the rumors that were coming out that a lot of these iBuyers are going to be selling houses directly to investors, the big BlackRock investment firms, the guys who have like a lot of real estate that they rent out. And the numbers did not really reflect that. But most what they're doing is that they're just basically coming in and acting like a wholesaler or a soft flipper. They buy the house from somebody at offering the convenience of you don't have a lot of strangers in your house. You get to sell the house quickly. Here's an offer. And then they turn around and list it 3 or 4 days later at fair market value. And that worked out for most of them, except for Zillow, because Zillow's algorithm was still running with false data and stuff. I saw somewhere that 60% of all Zillow estimates were inaccurate by a substantial amount, but they put their money where their mouth was, and guess what? It cost them. So a little bit of chortling here, I got to be honest with you. Next big thing that affected the market was the supply chains and the inventory issue. Supply chains, especially when it came down to new builds, a lot of home builders were not able to hit their target numbers because they were not able to complete the houses that they got started, because next thing you know, you don't have, remember a couple months ago, it was the lumber issue when we decided to get into a trade war with Canada over lumber prices. And then we're having issues with the power outage that happened in Texas, affected a supplier who did breaker boxes. And then, of course, Long Beach and California and whatnot, and everything getting that was being brought in overseas, especially appliances being impacted. This all had downstream effects on their national inventory and here in Maricopa. Another thing that came out in national news that had an effect is that our interest rates are actually lower than the inflation rate right now. This is really, really unusual, and I can't think of a time I've ever seen it. And I don't think I can actually have ever heard of this happening, even back in the 80s, early 80s, where inflation was like 7-9%. That's why you had 18% interest rates on home purchases. But here it is right now, at least since January, February, when the inflation started to kick off. Interest rates kept pushed down low, and this has allowed a lot of people to buy a lot more house than they normally would be able to. And in fact, it starts making a real decent argument of, if you got money, put it into a house before the inflation eats it. And you saw that impact the market, especially on the buyer side. One of the things that did not hit the national news to the consumers as much, but is definitely going to have an impact, was the NAR and the DOJ fights that they've been having, with DOJ deciding to rescind its agreement with NAR at the beginning of this year and reopen the investigations. NAR has been scrambling, trying to come up with some way to deal with that. I covered that in previous episodes. The impact of DOJ trying to figure out how they're going to make real estate agents work for free at no cost to the buyer has required NAR to make some changes in the MLS systems. We are now seeing buyers' agent commissions will be listed on the listings themselves now, so the buyer knows how much their agent is going to be making off the transaction. And of course, that means that from a seller standpoint, your buyers are now going to be coming at you, Mr. Seller, for your price because, hey, they now know that you're not going to be paying the buyer's agent out of that. So don't know how this one's going to play out. We did cover this in a previous episode. We here at ProStar are going to be doing buyer brokers agreements. All right, that the Department of Justice has decided the buyers should be paying for their own agents, and we're going to get a little bit ahead of them on that march. So, and the last thing on the big national news thing, and this affected, especially here in Arizona, is the blue state to red state flight. With California, Illinois, New York, Washington, Oregon, all the blue states suddenly becoming a less desirable place to live, people are fleeing into Florida, Texas, Arizona, Idaho, Utah. These states, which are driving up home prices to rates that these states have never seen before, because basically we got a lot of California money coming in. I don't know who's buying these houses from California, probably BlackRock and the other investment firms and whatnot, but that's just rank speculation on my part. But that was the last big news article to really cover on that blue to red state flight is a major issue here in Maricopa. This is why our prices have gone up on homes, and I'll show you that in a later slide. So our numbers for this year, my first video for this year was January 6th, all right, or at least where I wrote the number down. It was on January 6, 2021, we had 5,869 active listings. And as of me running the numbers yesterday on December 29th, we have 5,880. This is shows that we didn't really gain that much inventory. This is almost a statistical blip. I'm pretty sure if I checked that number a couple hours earlier, we would have been actually below. But you can see the chart here where we came in low to begin with. I mean, we got low inventory. And then as the buyers come in, because the buyers always show up in springs, I personally have 3 different groups of buyers who all wants to get started. It's probably sometime around February, they keep saying. And that's where you see the inventory absolutely crash as the buyers come in, sweep, get houses under contract. As the school year starts and the buyers stop looking, you'll see the inventory coming in. We're in this really weird position here where buyers want to buy in the spring, but the sellers don't necessarily want to sell until they get the kids out of school and stuff like that. That's why we always have this little spring issue right here. And then inventory eventually starts building back up, as you can see, all the way here until about October or so. And then sellers decide they don't want to put houses on the market because they want to stay in the house during the holidays, and you see inventory stop off, and then the cycle continues. This is called seasonality. This is our curve. This is the curve that we are used to seeing. We didn't see it too much in 2021 or 2020 because of COVID and the impact that happened. But this is almost return to normal if we added maybe an extra 10,000 listings to this. So one of the big misnomers that I'm constantly hearing is that people assume that real estate has been dead the entire time. They're assuming that since buyers aren't getting houses under contract, that houses must not be selling. So these 3 numbers right here, what you're seeing is the total sales in Maricopa for the 3 respective years. As you see in 2019, we did 96,000 worth of sales. That's a buy-sell transaction. This in many cases is not going to reflect houses that weren't put on the MLS, like new builds. Right. And then the next year, 2020, the year of the COVID, right, we still sold more houses. We went up, about 4,000 or so more. And you can see that jump right there. And then we've gone up another 5,000 or so. So we are continuing to increase 4,000 to 5,000 transactions every year. And when you look at the big charts, you see this goes all the way back to about 2010, 2012, right around in there. We get 5,000 more transactions. So it's not that real estate is doing worse. It's just that we have less inventory. The houses that hit the market sell faster. We're not doing the 60, 90 days on the market anymore. We're doing, we were looking at under a week there earlier on in the summertime. So houses are still transacting, houses are still being sold, and it's just that they're going faster because we have so many buyers out there moving into the valley, coming in with California money. Interest rates are still stupid low, all right, which means more people can afford to buy. It is still cheaper to buy than to rent in many places in the valley. All right, always remember that, and that's because our interest rates are so low. And everybody is always talking about, oh, when the crash is going to happen, when the crash is going to happen. Well, this crash is going to happen when people quit moving into Maricopa, start staying in California, and interest rates go up into the 5s and 6s again. Those are the three things that are going to have to happen. If you think these three things are going to happen in 2022, feel free to keep renting and stuff like that and wait for the crash. But, nobody's seeing that come down the pike. So our interest rates did go up year over year. All right, these are the numbers for this month, December, for these 3 years. Right, we ended 2019 at 3.74. Right, in 2020 we dropped. Right, and there was a time there in 2020 is right when COVID hit and stuff like that, where interest rates went stupid low. All right, but we ended 2020 in the 2.67. Now it looks like we're going to be ending this year just over 3%. Right, and interest rates directly apply to how much people can afford to buy. And you can try to sell your house for whatever you want, but if you can't get people who can afford that price point, you're never going to sell it. Right? And this interest rate, of everything that we've seen going on so far, I'd say that this interest rate is probably, it is a strong argument whether or not this is more reason why house prices are going up, or if it's actually more people moving to Maricopa. But it's neck and neck on these things. So, and you can see over the last 2 years, right? 2019, our median household income in December, or a household price, was $289,000. Right? A year later, it'd gone up to $335,000. Right. This year, in 2021, it's gone up to $430,000. The median home price on the market is $430,000. Right. That is almost, actually, I can work that out. That is, what, $95,000 more than 2020? It's a huge jump. This is a kind of big jump that we see in a really serious bull market when it comes to real estate. So what are we going to be doing with 2022? This is our numbers ending at the end of the year. All right, actives this week are 5,880. As you can see, we're very close to where we started the year at. We're actually down 374 from last week, and that's because of the holiday. Our news listings were only 902, which is down 689 because people don't list their house on Christmas. Our pendings are down to 1,188, down 471. Under contracts looking for backups are 516, down 380. Our contracts with the buyer contingency are at 47, down 16. And our closings were down 950 to 1,679. And a whole grand total of 355 are showing on the coming soon. This is the slowest week of the year. These are the numbers that show it. Everything will start going up beginning next week. And that's how these things kick off. So what's my projections for 2022? I'm actually thinking I'm going to make that next week's episode. Beginning of the new year, I got some new graphics that I'm going to be coming in, a new intro screen and everything. And I will give you my projections for 2022. And we're going to mark these things down. And then at the end of 2022, a year from now, we're going to see how far off I was or how accurate it was. Am I indeed the great prophet of real estate that I should have my own, national television show or not? So other than that, it is the day before New Year's Eve. It is the 30th. For those people who are going to go out and go out to the pubs and to friends for parties and stuff like that, do not drink and drive. All right. It would really suck I guess technically you could say you actually got through 2021, all right? But if you die or kill somebody the first day of 2022, that's not the right way you want to start the year. So drive safe, have a happy new year, and catch you on the flip side.